Where to start this week? Well, it wasn't that good this week, for various reasons. I guess I should start with Zyuohger since that's the order. My constant problem with Sentai the last few years, and for many others, is the undeserved worship of the Red Sentai member. He gets the most focus, he's the lead of the show, and he gets a lot of things just given to him with little justification, or the justification they use isn't supported by the narrative. And, well, I really liked last week's episode in that you kind of saw the earning it through the compassion with Larry and, connecting to him on a human level where they become friends, and it's building off of that, which I like, but it doesn't do a very good job of it. I mean, okay, so Larry has lost a lot of his lifespan due to giving his Zyuman power to Yamato, which, admittedly, one of the good parts of the episode is Yamato's reactions to this. It's very character consistent in that upon learning he's cost this person's years of his life, he tries to give it back, and they realize that they likely can't, which snaps into an realization for him that the Eagle Zyuman that helped him when he was younger likely did the same thing. So now he has likely has the power of two different Zyuman in him, which also explains how he can use the champion symbol. And that part of it really works for me, as he's realizing the weight of these incidents, and that is something the last two at least, didn't really do much or often. I mean, to the complete fairness of Wright in Tokuger, as the series progressed, or no, not as the series progressed, as the show neared its end, he kind of got that a bit. I say a bit because him reacting on it was a complete and utter failure. It's kind of like taking responsibility. He betrayed his friends, stuffed them in a place where they would end up all dying because of his own actions, and then went all alone as some kind of... I don't even know what he was doing at the end of Tokuger, but it was not exactly the same thing. This is... How do I want to describe this? This is feeling regret over what he has cost someone, not due to his own fault, but through circumstance. I don't want to say circumstances beyond his control, as we saw the bigger incidents. It's like he's feeling... I don't even know how to describe it, which is a problem. I hate it when I can't state what I want to do. But yeah, I like this with Yamato, as it's building better compassion for him, and the whole actually selling him as a decent human being, for lack of better phrasing. The problem with this more comes from how Larry seeks to, justify letting him stay like this, stay older. Like, it's because Yamato reawoke... It's like Yamato gave him back his life and his dream of connecting and studying humans through showing that they're not all bad, and that... it doesn't really work for me as stated, I guess, because it's more like it's like equating giving Yamato this life force is equivalent to getting Larry over his fear and not outright hatred, but xenophobia of humans. And I didn't feel that quite connected with me because his xenophobia was to a point justified by his experiences, and Yamato was more showing him that, yeah, you suffered some horrible events from us, but we're not all like that. You just saw it at our worst, and you see where I'm kind of falling short of equivalence in showing him the truth of humans when they're not freaking out equates to having your lifespan. I think that's a bit overdoing it. And admittedly, in the original circumstances, they were all in danger from this monster, and so you had two options. Make a scientist fight, which is not the best of ideas, admittedly, especially if they have no combat training or experience, or give some power to someone that might be able to use it. You see where I'm going with this, I hope. And then the aftermath is more trying to justify leaving the status quo as it is between them, and I don't feel that quite works. It's not showcasing them as either bad characters or my bigger thing with focusing on the red. It's closer, but it's not. I feel it's more borderline instance of letting him keep this power up without the best of justifications for why he should get over his. I don't want to say guilt, but he is feeling some form of regret for the lifespan thing, and the bigger thing that he didn't know about, which I think might have been more of the traumatizing factor, in that he'd been living with this kind of thing for years and not known about it, which it works a bit more for me. So yeah, the action commander, which I'm just going to call him that at this point, for the villains from last episode that disappeared comes back. He is a giant toothed dinosaur that eats buildings. As the video game references are obvious in this one, I want to say Pac-Man or... Pac-Man would be the obvious old-time game reference, which with all the 8-bitting, I wouldn't put it past them for that to be the one they're doing it after, but it's probably yet again an older game I have not played. I have not played much from the Nintendo era. I've got the Mega Mans, I know of Mario, I know of Zelda, but I was more a Sega kid until I got a PlayStation. We also had an N64 at my stepbrother's home, but that's a different story. So yeah, I'm probably missing a lot of the retro video game references that are popping up in the show, which are being a bit more prevalent lately. But yeah, I at least got the more monster-styled reference in that, of course, it eats things. That's kind of prevalent. But in the episode, it ends up eating the other four Zyuohger's weapons, and I just kept thinking of the pig monster from Zyuohger, or, the pig monster in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which aids all of the weapons, and then they had to get them back with this horrible tasting dish that involved radishes. And I'm glad they admittedly didn't go that route, but it still gets a bit silly with how they punch him out repeatedly with the Zyuohger gorilla formations. Also, where are they getting those weapons back from? Because they never retrieve them from the monster before they destroy it. Did they just recover it from its debris after they blew it up? It bugs me. Because, the last few years with their equipment, they've been kind of not addressing where it comes from. I mean, the last one that did is Zyuohger, and then I guess the Rainbow line would have built the Tokuger's equipment, and okay, I take all of that back. They did establish where they were. They just kind of tended to grab them out of the fuck of nowhere when they actually needed them. The ninjas were very guilty of that. Where the hell did they pull those giant katana from? Back in point. New mecha, the Zyuohger gorilla. I like it to a point. It's like, it has the same basic transformation styling of the Zyuohger, as in the mecha, and except with the gorilla palette swaps, which I'm betting with the slightly different stylization made it easier to produce in molding, and I gotta admit it kind of works for me. I'm big on red and black, duh, and its combination is overly focused on punches, which, what other mech was very big and awkward on punches? Was it... I think, yeah, it kind of reminds me of Live Boxer and the Zeo Battle Zord. I'm blanking on the thing's specific name. And most recently was the secondary mecha of Toku, which I am also completely forgetting because I am terrible with names, and I tended to attack more with punches. Then again, that was most of the Toku mechs, that they ended up being really big on punching things. Its combination, though, I feel it still works, but since it was emphasizing the gorilla top combination, it kind of forgot that it's the second and third blocks were the elephant and the tiger cubes, which have knee claws and kicking power. And I think it would have been a better showcasing of the mech had it been using all three and not just the punching element of it, especially since the with how they've built the suits, the mecha suits, for the series, the arms have no elbow joints. It's very much like the toys in this case. So when they need to have the mecha in kind of a punching position, they need a completely different arm thing, which has a very awkward limb shape to it, and it's very obvious how it's horrible. It would have been so much easier had they just, put a hinge in the normal mecha arms, because, it's more conforming to the toy, yes, but there's no reason the toy can't have, a second arm posability aside from the shoulder joint. That's a big problem with a lot of the of Bandai's mecha toys for these kinds of things, that you could easily afford to have a hinge there. Why do you not have an arm hinge there? But yeah, that's what bugged me about that. The bigger offender this week is Ghost, and it is a consequence of something I've been critiquing for a while. Its pacing and its inability to progress the narrative story points. As in this episode, Takeru is completely freaking out about what he witnessed in the Gamma world, but it's never quite framed as such, especially with how the last episode ended, with him frustrated, not fearful. And I think the ultimate point of what they were trying to do with this was what Gaim did with Kota right before he got Kachidoki arms. And what they did there, I think that vlog is completely gone now, kind of thing, but I've gone through a couple of different video accounts since then. What they did there was they completely demoralized him by the show finally revealing to him that he killed Yuya. And at that time, he was in a place where he was vehemently against the actions of Yggdrasil, where they were trying to, kill most of the planet just so a few people could live, or at least setting up those circumstances since the Helheim invasion was coming. And, it made him question what the hell he was doing with all of his actions when he really didn't know the scope of the conflict, and he was just putting it against just basic morality from what he'd been taught. He was not experienced in actually applying this, so he had to go through kind of a character arc addressing internally, and at least at the prompting of Sagara, on what he should actually do, how he should resolve this, and what his eventual decision came to be was he can't take what he did back. But to give up would to make that death worthless. Here, Takeru is freaking out because of what was revealed about the Gamma world, and that people were sealed in coffins and they were dying, and it seemed like a much grander scale conflict than just defending people from the Gamma. And if that was what they were going to be bringing to this world, why not just figure out a way to seal the Gamma off completely? Screw them, it's their problem. And it doesn't really work from the character perspective because of the compassion and faith. And had this been a two-parter, I think they could have more fleshed out what Takeru's real thought process was that caused this complete freakout. That essentially the episode was trying to force him into a position he has a reason to be in, but not for the reasons character-wise that they were trying to address here. If that makes much sense. Not helped by pretty much every one of his allies seeming to abandon him out of the blue. And this kind of starts when Takeru tries to get answers from... I shouldn't say he actually tries to get answers, because had he been trying to get answers for when this happened, this would have made more sense. He actually goes to get the other icons from Makoto and Aron, because he thinks he can fix this with the wish that is granted from the 15 coming together. As established, they don't quite work that way, but I think what they were intending to do with this is for him to make what they were trying to direct him is for him to make a selfish wish to just close off the Gamma world and leave it alone instead of trying to inspire and change them. And that leads to a bunch more misunderstandings, because this show is horrible at having the characters talk to each other and explain things in coherent conversations, because they keep getting interrupted for action scenes. Yeah, I'm beginning to sour to Ghost a bit. In this case, Takeru is corrected in his assumption about the people sealed away in coffins, about them being kidnapped people that they were abusing in some way. They still technically are, but we'll get back to that dystopia thing at another time. So is it at least corrected that the coffins seal the humans of the Gamma world so their souls and bodies can be immortal as Gamma? I think that would have, had they been able to flesh that out a bit more, then much of what followed would have been curtailed. Because Takeru doesn't seem to grasp the concept of that's how they were stored. Even though in 2-3 episodes previously, Makoto already told him that his body is in the Gamma world. I thought he would have made the connection that that is how his body is being stored while his spirit is away. He already knows Makoto is stuffed in an icon like Kanan. He already knows about Kanan being stuffed in an icon against her will and being trapped like that. So this is not connecting the way they are intending it to, because Takeru should know all of this, and yet he's baffled by it. And I think he's stuck on that utopia thing. They both are, and their divergent interpretations of it in a way. And I think we could have had some good character stuff had this not been interrupted by the first of 3 fights with Javel in the new Omega Gamma form that take place in this episode. Because when Zyuohger comes around, Takeru refuses to fight. He refuses to countenance that this is something they need to set aside for later, and fight the current threat. And then he's thinking, why should I? He's a Gamma. He was the one that brought this to us in the first place, and he isn't. It's going against what he was doing before with trying to connect to the Gamma. Hell, he was still doing that with the Swordswoman Gamma from the last few episodes. In that, at the end, yeah, he was ready to fight her without hesitation, but that seemed to be more like giving her what she seemed to want. And, still feeling a bit bad about that versus, this is someone in trouble, this is someone that has been rejected by this establishment, why don't you show him... Okay, I meant that the disdain for him is a bit justified, just that it goes against his character actions, and this is my problem with much of the episode. But when he refuses to fight and thinks to just, no, I need to be focused on the wish to stop all of this, all of the icons leave him with no other prompting, and it's like, really, guys? This is kind of when he needs your mentorship the most, and you're going to just leave him en masse without even any indication of why you would do that. And I know they're souls and icons, but they've sucked him into them before in important moments, and when he's earned their respect, so it just doesn't seem like this would be the first resort. Hell, Houdini locking himself out from Makoto using him made more sense. Grim and Sanzo not being to willingly be used by Aaron, as in they're not letting him use him and he's forcing the forms to be used, makes a bit more sense, because it's against their will, whereas this is someone who's in a bad place right now that have earned your respect, and you're just going to abandon him like that? What the hell? So this is why I'm more saying that this should have been a two-parter, because you could more justify his descent into, I don't want to say despair, but the self-pity party that comes after that, and I'm just like, somebody punch him, and then Makoto comes along and actually punches him, and I'm like, that was probably not what he needed, but that was cathartic for the audience, thank you. Because it really doesn't work for me as presented. In how Takeru has to get his faith back in what he's doing when he's operating off of his own logic from what no one is telling him. You cannot make an informed decision if no one is telling you anything, and that's Ghost, in a nutshell. He only has a small view into the larger conflict, and by this point, Kota knew what was going on with the Helheim. He knew that there were overlords that could potentially control it. He knew what Yggdrasil's bigger plans were, and that they were being deceived about that Yggdrasil was operating off of false information. He was informed, and his perspective was allowed him to operate from that. And what most of the rest of the show from then on was just shaping him into the person that he would need to be a compassionate overlord of the Helheim. That was continuing the character arc. Whereas here, it's more focused on the story arc of the Gamma world that we only have had a small glimpse into, despite having now 3 main characters that have been Gamma world residents, where they can actually give you more details on the Gamma world. So there's less narrative justification for why these details have not in full been briefed to us to give us the greater scope of this conflict. And so this is more of a consequence of those narrative failings more than anything, because, like I said, you're trying to force Takeru into this place that he shouldn't be just to get the grateful Damashi form, which unites all 15 icons, and that isn't really he's not really earning it in the way it needs to be. It's not earning the respect of all 15 icons with his noble actions, like it has been alluding to for the entire last arc of the series, but more, I was scared, now I have the will to fight. And we did this already. We did this with Tokon Boost. We did this with several of the other icons. Far better, in fact, where he loses his resolve and then he gets it back, and that's enough to earn the respect of the icon. And what? That's it? It's like, shouldn't this be more focused on, please help me prevent this atrocity from coming here? Yeah, that was kind of what he wanted to do with the wish, but completely the wrong way about it, certainly, because it's abandoning the people over there. And I'm just tying myself up because it's an immediate thoughts video. You know that by now. Grateful Damashi. I like design-wise, but it's because they stuffed 3 fight scenes into the episode, 2 of them just being Zyuohger Omega and against Spectre and Necrom. Why did I forget Necron's name? It's like redundancy, and then there's a completely separate one with Grateful that it doesn't have the time to show off the form very well, and that has been a problem with the number of ghosts, different ghost parkas. As then it's just punch him a few times, Gamma Omega gets a sudden upgrade from some other unexplained thing about the Gamma platforms that were in this shrine that I kind of glossed over, that the now dead king of the Gamma world was presiding over, I guess. And then Grateful just unites all 15 souls into kind of a lame rider kick, and not the best of edited attack sequences either. Hell, him retrieving it is just, no, I was scared. No, you weren't. You were panicking over for a legitimate reason, and trying to facilitate getting... I won't go back into that. But yeah, it's like, he needed their... he got his resolve back, he needed their help, and then all of them united to give him this, and it's not really him earning it the right way, is ultimately what I'm coming down to. When he has been earning the powers of the other icons through either mostly strength of character and earning the respect of the icons. So I could say it's building off of that, but with how easily they abandoned him, it doesn't feel like it's connecting correctly. It's like, here's a power-up. It's sad, because this is ultimately the culmination of Ghost's own problems, as with regards to its storytelling engine. And hopefully that'll be ironed out eventually, but it's halfway into the show now, and it's not really getting fixed much. Some other details. Makoto is out of the picture for the meantime. His Gamma icon that he has been existing as, his soul has been spectating in, was broken in the battle with Zyuohger Omega. And that was because he took a shot for, from Zyuohger Omega that was meant for Auron, and it's like showing the level of compassion that admittedly has been building in Makoto's character, so it's definitely recognized in his character arc, but more enforced by how Auron's sister wanted Makoto to look after him, which I buy more, honestly, and why it was so facilitated like that, because how Auron's been acting is not really reflective of a deep, long-standing friendship which they were trying to build it up as. Now, I said before, there's going to be a Kamen Rider Necrom Blu-ray exclusive episode, it's kind of like, I'm guessing we could count as a V-Cinema, which is supposed to go more into the backstory of Auron and the Gamma world, and I say once again, why did you not put that in the show? That is show essential material. I would think you would have done that. You know what? Had that been in the show, that more would have justified the whole arc this has been going on for Makoto to, at least with Auron. Because here it kind of seems like it's deeper than a long-standing friendship. It's like, I don't even know what to call it at this point. I mean, honestly, the best parts of the episode were with Auron adjusting to his new situation with the help of Kanan and Makoto, in that he has to, after hundreds of years, get used to having a humanoid body again, and not just an icon that can subsist on whatever they subsist on. I keep playing with my nose, I don't know why I'm doing that. Because it seems to be a definite softening of his character as, you know, now he's not this uber-powerful official prince that... Son of a bitch, that's what they were going with him. This kind of reminds me of Vegeta from Dragon Ball, in a way, in that he had this pride as the Prince of all Saiyans, and backed up by his goons and this big organization, when really he was low on the totem pole, and when he started getting his ass handed to him regularly, or betrayed by those groups, that he kind of got humbled. No, I think it was more the having his ass repeatedly handed to him was more the humbling factor than the whole betrayals thing, but it feels like a similar progression of character. If that makes any sense to anyone. I don't know. So it's kind of weird, because Takeru's previously been the rock of consistent character progression, whereas so him falling apart in this episode doesn't really gel, while those who haven't exactly had the best character arcs because of Takeru taking more of the spotlight got a bit more chance to show how they're developing. I'm amazed they didn't really address... A consequence of this episode's rush pacing, again, is they didn't really get to address why people would be decomposing in those chambers. And I think when that is a detail that's revealed and properly addressed to Auron, in that his utopia is a falsehood that's still being built on sacrifices, versus, you know, their prior condemnations that humanity is below them because they still do this, will be the motivating factor for him to officially become a good guy, versus, you know, anti-hero stuck in this situation because of the machinations of the actual show villain. And I think we could have had a better showcasing with regards to that had this been done here. And he's like, Takeru, yeah, that's another way you could fish this. Takeru lashing out at someone that is not actually at fault for this could have made the icons abandoned that way. Because, then he would be abusing their power for something that won't help anyone, versus them abandoning him because he had his faith shaken and thus further breaking him. It's like correcting him in this false, keeping him from going down this wrong path. That would have been better. I apologize that I kind of went wibbly-wobbly around to getting to that. But regardless, next week is the Ghost Zyuohger team-up, and they're integrating it into the normal episodes, as in, instead of a spring break special, which is an hour-long event, it will be 2 normal episodes of the shows, which just cross over with the other show, for, I'm guessing, either a battle or a few of the episode's plot points, which better establishes this as a connected crossover bigger universe, which, admittedly, as some of my condemnations in the scripted reviews have showcased, is that due to them more structuring them as movies and special events, people can confuse what actually counts in continuity. And that helps by Toei, on occasion, retconning things because it hurts their bigger business model. And, of course, fan backlash. Yes. So I will hopefully be back for that next week. See you all then!